Princess Maryam of the Kingdom of Sham, beautiful like her name, but with a heart of stone. She was so arrogant and cruel that when her royal procession passed through the markets, the entire city would tremble. Why? Because her royal decree was that everyone must clear the way. Shopkeepers must pull down their curtains, and if anyone happened to remain, they had to lie face down on the ground. And if anyone dared to even slightly violate this command, the punishment was so dreadful, it would chill the soul. Both eyes would be seared out with a red-hot iron rod. One day, this terrifying scene was about to become a reality. Princess Maryam's carriage was speeding through the market when an old fisherman, carrying a basket full of fish on his head, entered the bazaar from another street. The carriage was close. There was no time to run back. The fisherman's problem was that he couldn't take the basket off his head without assistance, and if he threw it down to lie on his face, all the fish would scatter on the street. What should he do? The poor fisherman, trembling with fear, looked around desperately, but there was no way out. And then what he feared happened. The stone-hearted princess's stone-hearted soldiers immediately arrested him. The princess glanced at him and commanded in a cold tone, "According to the custom, his eyes shall be seared out with a hot iron rod in 2 days." The chief of police bowed his head. The fisherman was shaking violently. "O princess, patron of the poor, have mercy. I swear I did not see your highness. Please consider my poverty and have mercy on me," he pleaded, clasping his hands. What was the princess's reply? Just one sentence: "Let the eyes of this wretch be taken out." And the carriage moved on, the weeping fisherman. The basket slipped from his trembling hands and crashed onto the ground. The fish scattered on the road. A soldier struck him on the back with a stick, saying, "Savage old man, what have you done? You've dirtied the clean road. Pick up these fish." The fisherman, amidst fear and tears, began picking up the fish, but his hands were shaking. He would put a fish in the basket and it would fall out. The cruel soldiers kept cursing him, and then suddenly, a handsome young man, about 20 years old, passed by. Taking pity on the fisherman, he stepped forward and started putting the fish into the basket. The soldiers became furious. "You son of a donkey, who asked you to put the fish in the basket?" They shoved the young man. "Is it a crime to help a poor old man?" the young man asked as he stood up. What did he get in return? A hard slap from a soldier. "A low-life brat teaching us the law. Get out of here." The young man walked a few steps, then stopped and turned back, and his voice carried a dangerous threat. "You royal dogs, I will deal with you and your princess too." Saying this, he ran off, and the soldiers ground their teeth in frustration. The old fisherman looked at the running savior as if saying, "May God bless your words." Suspenseful night in the princess's palace. When Princess Maryam reached the palace, her special maid, Layla, made a final attempt. "Princess, I feel pity for that poor fisherman. Please withdraw your command." "Never," the princess said haughtily. "An arrow never returns after leaving the bow. Similarly, we can never take back our decree." Layla fell silent, but she prayed in her heart, "May God find some way out." The princess's chamber was separate from the king's palace, and under the strictest guard where not even a bird could fly in. She slept alone and kept her windows open. That very night, when the entire palace was in deep slumber, the same young man who had threatened the soldiers entered through the window. In the middle of the room, on a table, stood a beautiful vase. It held flowers of every color. But the most astonishing thing among the flowers was this: a bright red diamond was placed on one large flower. The entire room was illuminated by its sparkle. This diamond was so precious that everything else paled in comparison to its brilliance. The young man stepped forward. He picked up the diamond and tucked it into his turban. And at that very moment, the entire room plunged into darkness. The young man silently left the way he had come, as if he had never been there. A baffling scene in the king's court. In the last part of the night, the princess woke up to find the room pitch black. She panicked and scrambled out of bed, struggling to feel her way to the chain which, when pulled, would ring the large clock hanging from the palace roof. She pulled the chain hard, and the sound of the clock echoed far and wide. A commotion broke out. The king and queen rushed over in alarm. "Oh dear, what accident has befallen my child?" the queen cried out. Everyone gathered in the princess's chamber, where the princess was screaming loudly. "The diamond is missing from my room, and these people say no one came here." The king questioned the guards, who swore they were not oblivious for a single moment and had not seen anyone enter. The king was both astonished and worried. This was the first theft he knew of. The next morning, the king announced, "The person who finds the princess's missing diamond and presents it to the king shall receive an award of their choosing." The very next day, as the king was hearing petitions in court, suddenly, the same handsome young man, wearing his turban, entered the court and respectfully saluted before the throne. The king asked, "Who are you and what do you want?" The young man replied, "Your Majesty, I have come here to present the princess's invaluable diamond and to claim the reward of my choosing as per the announcement." "Excellent! Where is the diamond?" The young man took the diamond from his turban and respectfully presented it to the king. The king was very pleased to see the diamond. "Now tell me, what do you want as a reward?" The young man immediately said, "The order the princess gave 2 days ago to blind the poor old fisherman must be withdrawn, and those 5 soldiers who arrested the fisherman and abused me must be given 20 lashes each on their backs." The king asked, "What is your relationship with this fisherman?" "None at all," the young man replied. "I only pity his poverty, his old age, and his helplessness." The king said to the vizier, "We forgive the fisherman's offense. Free him and have the 5 soldiers given 20 lashes each, and send this young man to prison." The young man was shocked. "Your Majesty, what is my crime?" The king stated bluntly, "Theft! You stole the diamond." The young man smiled. "I only stole to free the fisherman." "No more explanations are needed," the king pronounced his judgment. Before heading to prison, the young man challenged the king, looking him straight in the eye. "If I am imprisoned, remember, I will steal your crown, and then you will not be able to catch me." The king laughed. "Foolish boy, don't be ridiculous," and motioned to his soldiers. The young man was seized and taken away. Escape from prison and the missing crown. The vizier freed the fisherman and had the soldiers lashed. The princess was happy to have the diamond back, but she insisted, "Father, punish this thief severely. He even threatened to steal your crown." The king decided, tomorrow morning, his both hands will be cut off in front of the public so that people may learn a lesson about the penalty for theft. The vizier went and conveyed this decision to the young man. The young man let out a loud cackle and said, "Are you mad? Who can cut off my hands? I will be free from this prison before sunrise." The vizier commanded the guard to keep a strict watch tonight and to keep the cell completely dark. Morning came. The vizier came to see the young man, and the sight that met his eyes shocked him to the core. The handcuffs and shackles were lying on the floor. The doors and ventilators were closed, but the thief was gone. The guard swore that he himself had stayed awake all night, but he couldn't understand how the young man escaped and where he went. The king was furious and had all the guards imprisoned. The king spent the entire day in worry and anger. He didn't speak to anyone, not even the princess, and went to bed early that night. The next morning, Princess Maryam came to the king and saw that he was very sad, clutching his head and peering out the window. The king answered, with his head bowed, "The thief boy managed to escape from prison yesterday, and tonight he has stolen my crown. It is very strange that he enters the palace deceiving everyone and takes whatever he wants." The princess immediately suggested a plan. "This boy must have some connection with the old fisherman. Summon the fisherman and announce a severe punishment for him. As soon as the boy comes to help him, we will arrest him." The king loved the plan. The fisherman was immediately arrested again and imprisoned in the princess's palace, and a terrible announcement was made throughout the city. The eyes of the old fisherman will be taken out and fed to the kites, and he is currently imprisoned in the princess's palace. The princess's palace was under the strictest guard that night. The king, disguised, was patrolling below. And then, the middle of the night, a heart-wrenching scream was heard from the princess's chamber. The entire palace echoed. The king, the vizier, and the soldiers rushed wildly and entered the room quickly. They saw that Princess Maryam was lying lifeless on the floor. The king screamed and summoned the royal physician immediately. The physician examined the princess and bowed his head. Alas, Princess Maryam has passed away. She was bitten by a poisonous snake. Tears streamed down the king's eyes, and he sobbed, "Oh God, what have you done?" She was the only support in my life. Just then, the vizier's eyes fell on the table. The king's stolen crown was placed there. "Your Majesty, look! Your crown is kept here on the table. It seems the thief brought the crown here." Then he said, trembling, "Could that scoundrel have left the snake here?" But the king was too overwhelmed by the grief of his only daughter to pay attention. The next day, the arrogant and cruel Princess Maryam of the Kingdom of Sham was buried in the royal cemetery by the river. Everyone was happy to hear this news, because they were finally rid of the tyrant. Conclusion and message. If you like this story of justice and suspense, please like, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Such interesting and morally instructive stories will keep reaching you. Your support is very valuable to us.